Well, hi everybody and welcome. Good morning, which is the case where I am very early in the morning, or good day or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar from Antares. And my name is Kim Winter. I'm the Global CEO of Logistics Executive Group. We are a global consulting firm in the space of logistics and supply chain. So consulting, corporate advisory, M&A, and executive search. And today we've got a presentation from Kelvin Wong, who I'll introduce shortly. And I also he's a technology partner for Antares, and I'm also joined today by our search partner for our global operations, Cassandra Lee. So welcome, Kelvin, and welcome, Cassandra. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us from various parts of the world, mainly APAC, I think, but fairly widespread around the world. So yeah, look, background to today for me is that I've been emceeing conferences around the world over the last 12 months, probably a dozen or more conferences right throughout APAC, Middle East, where I am today, in Dubai, India, and through to Europe, where I've just returned from. And the conferences, by and large, whilst they're logistics, supply chain, industry focused, have always tended to have a very heavy focus, especially the last year or so, on technology, data, inventory, dealing with the issues of artificial intelligence and how business can digitize and improve its performance, especially in turbulent times that we have. So without further ado, I'd just like to make a quick intro for Antares. Antares is a Microsoft Gold Solutions partner for data technology and AI. Antares has 15 years experience helping organizations dramatically reshape how they work and make data-driven decisions. They're a highly accredited Microsoft Solutions partner and founding member of the Cloud Collective, which we're going to hear quite a bit about today. The Cloud Collective is a strategic alliance of 4 Microsoft Gold partners that can deliver solutions across the whole Microsoft stack. So that's going to be something which will be a bit of an eye-opener, because the information that I've got and been studying over the last couple of weeks has really highlighted a lot of openings and opportunities for all sorts of companies right across supply chain in particular. So Kelvin is supply chain technology partner with Antares Solutions. He's had 10 years experience in supply chain operations and optimizations, lecturer in AI and applications. He's a Microsoft certified data scientist. He's combined academic, business and technology in his career today, and he's all about generating extra profit margins for his clients, which we're going to hear a fair bit about today. Kelvin will share with you some of the how AI can help inventory management in particular, especially at a time where there's a fair bit of overstocking taking place from as a hangover from the COVID high volume turnover days at retail. So we're interested to hear about that, and along with a case study where he'll outline the use of solutions to help pharmaceutical company in particular. So without further ado, to that intro, Kelvin Wong, welcome, and please introduce the topics for the day.
Thank you, Kim. Can everyone see the screen?
Sure can.
Yep.
Yes.
So again, the agenda today will be 45 minutes. We will look at the project that we talked about, that Kim talked about with the pharmaceutical company, a demo, and then we'll take some questions as well. All right.
So what I might do, Kevin, is I might just, as an admin here, housekeeping, is if everybody could leave, welcome to leave your camera on if you wish. This is a live recording, and we would like you to, if you have any questions, if you have your camera on, you can put up your hand. We can respond directly. or in the chat. You can raise your hand in the chat itself. And so, thank you for joining us. And by all means, as we go along, this is an interactive session. So by all means, if you have any questions, Kelvin will work with those as we go.
Right, thank you. Before we start, just a couple of questions, trying to keep it interactive. I know most of you are from supply chain and logistics and 3PL's background. In your opinion, what is the most common pain point in supply chain organization? If you can hit the poll in front of you. That would be great. Cool. Next question. Do you have a common platform with a single version of truth, providing real-time data, security controlled access, and everyone in your organization can use? All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. I guess it's a very similar experience that I have when I was in business. So I used to be like you, sitting on the business side or operation side, chasing IT for a flexible solution that can address our pain point. I switched from business to IT to build a suitable solution for supply chain, a solution that involves AI, real-time analytics, and it is flexible enough to cater for existing systems and processes. Very little learning curve, and most importantly, it pulls everyone together across each department to reduce inventory. Let's clarify some terminology before we go on, because it can be quite confusing to hear those terms: AI, machine learning, data mining. What are they? So is self-driving car AI? Yes, of course.
Yep.
Then what is machine learning, or what is data science? So data science is the brain behind AI, and data scientist is the one working on machine learnings, the tools. So machine learning is the tool that data scientists use to create algorithms, and those algorithms are being consumed by AI. So in a nutshell, AI, data science, machine learning is the same thing. It depends on whether you're talking about the results you can see, which is AI, the method, which is the data science, or the tool, which is machine learning. So with this clarification done and dusted, we can look at how we can use AI for inventory management. The AI tool that I use behind this inventory management solution is Azure Machine Learning. I'm not sure whether you have heard of Azure Machine Learning. It is released in 2015, so about 7 years plus ago. Microsoft Power BI Desktop was released on the same year, 2015 as well. A lot of people heard about Power BI, but they may not have heard about Azure Machine Learning. But both technology are very, very mature, and that's the reason why we choose Azure Machine Learning as the tool. There are many different planning methods like open to buy, just in time, F&R, forecasting replenishment. So what supply chain is trying to do is really trying to manage stock on hand. Not just inventory, because stock on hand is inventory plus stock on water plus any purchase order minus the sales forecast or demand forecast. And in the demo, you will see that stock on hand is being the center theme of this particular solution, because this is what we're trying to manage, not just inventory, because too much inventory and too little inventory is what you see, but it's not the cause. It's not the problem itself. Of course, you can say that in current situation, this is what we have, the current problems we have, like supply chain shocks and not having a very accurate sales forecast. In addition, there is complication of having all this in your organization, safety stock, just in time, all these KPIs. Some have master purchase orders, some do S&OP. All this complication add together makes an ERP very, very complex. But today we're going to focus on the stock on hand. So any of this is very legit, but it doesn't mean that we have to do firefighting all the time, trying to manage inventory. If we get the stock on hand right, all of these are just measurements or measures that we can use to measure our business. And usually, if you don't have a very sophisticated ERP system, your data will be sitting in spreadsheets from WMS, from your shipping portal, from your order management, probably, very likely, a lot of these are sitting in Excel. Don't be surprised if I tell you that many MNCs are still using Excel as the data source. We helped one of them, a pharmaceutical company, to implement this real-time analytics and planning solution earlier this year. The pharmaceutical company is happy to conduct a video case study with us. If you would like to receive a link to this case study, please key in your work email in the following poll. I noticed a lot of registration coming through on Gmail, but unfortunately, we can't send out case studies to the Gmails. So yeah, please send us your work email address. So although I can't share the case study details with you in this particular webinar, but you can expect supply chain pain points are very, very similar to yours, and they can be solved by using real-time planning tool. Good news is we have used the same architecture to build an accelerator model to speed up the implementation process. And in the next few minutes, we'll go through to do a deep dive into this accelerator solution, and you can see how easily it can implement in your organization.
Kelvin, can I just interrupt you for a second? Can you just sort of give us a highlight, like with that case study, some of the key things that were addressed with that, and in migrating from Excel sheets into the solution, like what was the key thing that was resolved, so people understand what's going to come through in that video to highlight?
Sure. For example, they are having multiple processes, including forecasting. They have different markets, different forecasting methods, systems. Therefore, their output of the forecast manipulated in Excel. So we take the final agreed Excel model, Excel forecast, and integrate into our planning process. And just by that, aligning the forecasting process. That's one of the pain points. The other one is, for example, we have finance department. They're trying to control. They're trying to oversight the spending of the organization. So when supply chain do a forecast, they want to make sure they are not buying too much, and then putting capital risk to the organization. And what's finance focus is only on the aggregated number, the final number that you're going to purchase. So by adjusting, one of the things that they did was by reducing one of the skill item to a negative number, a very negative number, so that it aggregates to a smaller lump sum. And by that, it's just disintegrate the planning process in itself, and finance and supply chain is not talking to each other. And our planning system addressed that pain point and resolved the issue for them.
So then, you could still manage your production planning and actually being able to get everything to market, even with all of the supply chain or the logistics, last mile issues, and let alone, manufacturing through to export to other markets. All of that was then sort of taken into account, but we still kept finance happy. Is that how it all sort of resulted?
Exactly. Just one team, one company, not organization sitting in silos.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, great.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So at the end, we not entertain, but we deliver a solution that have various scenarios, so that they can sit on the same screen and working through the process together, and everyone is on the same page. The demo will be easier to see the demo. You will understand. So the front end of the solution, we choose to use Power BI, because Power BI has built-in connections and APIs with the common software that you may already be using, so they can extract real-time data from various data sources, including Excels and a lot of common softwares. And Power BI have Microsoft security level, so the multi-factor authentication security, we don't have to worry about integrating security involving IT in that. And you can share information that you choose to share to internal and external stakeholders. So if you are a manufacturer, you can share with your customers, you can share with your suppliers, so that integrate sharing, just having the same numbers, same view at the same time is very, very important. And question, does your organization use Power BI? All right, because if you do, you are already 50% there. Something in the middle, which is the detail stuff, nitty-gritty. I'm not going to go through it. It's not the scope of this particular webinar. The backend, again, it is using Azure Machine Learning to forecast. Why did we use AI to forecast? A little story. A friend of mine was working with a beverage company, a US big beverage company. They told me that their forecast is hit and miss, not only promotion items, but also on core items. And having forecast accuracy is like a dream to them. And by using AI forecast, for this particular solution, we've got consistent forecasting accuracy. And we can continue to fine-tune the particular forecasting model. So it's not a static algorithm. It evolves, and based on your historical data and the latest actual sales data, it evolves into a more accurate forecasting model. So what is AI forecasting then? A regression model is the most simple kind of machine learning. You might think it is quite easy. You just plot the results on a 2D graph, draw a line of best fit, and that's the formula. That's the regression model. So why do we need AI to forecast? That's not wrong, but it's more complicated than that. So in Azure machine learning, these are the most common used regression models. And data scientists conducting various experiments to make sure and to find the best regression model for each forecast. Some of them cannot be visualized on a 2D or 3D graph, but if you have to put it into a piece of paper, it actually looks quite amazing. You may ask, what is the best forecasting model? The best forecasting model is not the most accurate algorithm. An algorithm that is with very high forecast accuracy means it's likely an overfitted algorithm. This photo described overfitting model quite well. It's overfitting means it's a very rigid model. Any changes will cause the model to fail. So there's no room to turn around. So instead of finding the best forecasting algorithm, the next best option is to use AI forecast as the baseline. And then based on that, we can have different scenarios like a stretch plan, a under plan, an optimal plan. And then we can involve our experts in planning to modify those forecasts and having the best of both worlds to reduce manual work errors, at the same time improving forecast accuracy. So we're going to do a little demo. This is about a 6 minutes demo. Trying to talk over it, but if you have any questions anytime, just let me know. So this is a 7-step process. This particular accelerator model is a 7-step process. It has forecast accuracy, looking at stock on hand, fine-tuning the forecast, doing a promotion forecast, commit the forecast, and then you can look at the KPIs of this particular solution. So once you are happy with the forecast accuracy, which is done by Azure Machine Learning, you can go to the next step, which is to look at the stock on hand adjustments. So based on that, we have the stock on hand numbers and the same formula you have seen before. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at how can we adjust the sales forecast to our best knowledge so that we will have an optimal stock on hand for the business. So on this particular chart, you will see all the plans. When we say real-time analytics is you can adjust these plans. So you see that we're adjusting the optimal plan and refreshing the data, you will see the changes already refreshed to match with the actuals. So that's one way you can adjust your forecast real time with your colleagues cross department. There's another way you can adjust, which is the aggregated into the very detailed matrix way. So on this particular screen on fine-tuning forecast, we will try to change a number on this particular plan. So on the optimal plan, there's no data for product number 3, so we put a number on one of the products, save, and then refresh the data. And the changes are real time. you can already see there's a bip over here, which is the 110 or 100 we put in over here. We don't have to put it one at a time. We can use copy and paste features. So if you have your Excels ready, working on Excels, you can use copy and paste, save and refresh. So likewise, it's real time. You can see right away, and you can agree or disagree with your colleagues on screen. You can filter by scenarios. You can filter by products. If you don't like the changes you made, there's a way to undo the changes. All right. Next, we look at an example of promotion forecast. So in this particular example, we've got the 4 Ps, marketing 4 Ps. Store is a place, brand is a product, advertisement is a promotion, price, that's the 4P promotion use. So by adjusting the price, we can adjust the forecast quantity. So we changed from 1.9 to 1.9 to 1.8, refreshing the model. The number did not change. The forecast model is doing the right thing because it's not a static algorithm. It is an algorithm that look at various measures or variables and put it into consideration to make the final forecast quantity. So changing it to $2, it still doesn't change the forecast quantity. It's saying that the algorithm say the price is not going to impact your sales quantity because of certain reasons. And lastly, we know it's going to change because by changing it to 2.5, the forecast quantity jumped. There's no right and wrong. It's just how we train the model, and that's the best outcome that we've got. And next, we can commit the forecast and then look at the KPIs. There's one more step, which I didn't get to record at the time I was preparing this. The last step is to look at supply planning. So we've talked about a lot of forecasting and how it impacts stock on hand figures. What about supply planning and product allocation? So in this particular accelerator solution, we have put the demand and supply on the same page, so you can allocate whatever you see fit to different markets. It's the same visuals or same charts that we used from the previous screen. So it is an interactive way of doing supply plan and product allocation. So leveraging on the mature Microsoft technology to achieve the same goal. So without the pain of and cost of implementing an ERP, when I come from corporate background, so ERP implementation took 3 years for the whole organization. And for this particular solution, it can be done in weeks or months. AI can work with your team together to have the best optimal outcome. aligning all your team and the processes. If they operate in different countries in particular, they can operate in the same way. It can reuse your data, reuse your business process and systems. You don't have to scrape all that you have. We can integrate with your existing softwares. So it's not an ERP, so it doesn't cost as much as an ERP. It's just a fraction of an ERP. And the accelerator model speed up your implementation process dramatically. It is flexible enough to cater for customization. So this particular accelerator is focusing on supply chain, supply planning, demand forecasting. I know some of you are from 3PLs, but it is flexible enough to cater for the same. Because we are reusing or recycling a lot of your data processes and systems, there's very little learning curve to use this particular solution. And most importantly, and we know nowadays how important if you're in Australia, data security, data breach, and the solution itself is managed by Microsoft Security Active Directory. So unless you give access right or you share with the intended audience, even the developer itself cannot access that particular solution.
Kelvin, can I just ask, so is it by license, per user, or is it a fixed price? Like, in comparison to the cost of ERP implementations, which just blow out, where are we at sort of price wise? Because, from a SME through to an MNC, there's vastly different budgets, but they've all got the same problem. So how scalable or flexible is implementing this solution, and cost efficient actually is it?
Very good question. So I mentioned if you have Power BI, you are already 50% there. And the cost of Power BI is just $10 US per month per user. And there is another 50%, which including, let's say, the consumptions of AI. So every time if you query or reforecast, there is a cost. And that is a variable cost. So unless you use it, otherwise it's just sitting there waiting for you to use. You don't have to pay for it. There are Microsoft consumption costs, and there are other licenses that we need to look at. Depends on your final solution. But for the accelerator itself, I don't see we are anywhere close to the ERP system cost.
But we've got all the flexibility that, by the time you do a full ERP implementation and you have it customized to what you need, all of those different parameters that can be put into this, but obviously a lot quicker and a lot more cost effective. Is that where like the real sort of differentiator is?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you look at the end of the day, what are you trying to do with an ERP system? One, reporting. Two is to output a plan. And if you look at the demo, it is doing both already. Of course, if you have an invoicing system and accounting system, it is not that, but it integrates with your accounting and invoicing system. So it doesn't impact your everyday operation in the accounting side of things, but it gives you the goal of having that ERP system, that sophisticated ERP system.
Excellent. Yeah. And so the API feeds like literally go into all of the different accounting softwares, or is it, 80% of what's on the market, or it feeds into everything? We've got no issues with that, because obviously some SMEs have some very sort of small scale systems. Other larger MNCs have got legacy, internally built systems. Is there any sort of constraints on that, or there hasn't been that issue to date?
I haven't prepared a list, but from on top of my head, you can integrate with most ERP and accounting systems.
Great. Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
So if you're interested in the accelerator model, make sure you have your phone and camera ready, and capture the QR code to contact us. And as a Microsoft Gold partner, we can provide a Microsoft-funded Microsoft workshop and to build a proof of concept with you together, and it's being funded by Microsoft. It can be part of the accelerator implementation, or it can be something else. If you're interested to know more about how to utilize this Microsoft funding, again, please key in your work email and our team will be in contact with you.
Kelvin, can I just ask, like, on average, how much time does it take to implement this from, you know, from what your experience has been, say, for like a medium-sized organization? Are we talking a month? Are we talking 3 months, 2 weeks? Where, you know, what's the sort of typical time frame, and for what sort of size organization, just to sort of give us some context?
Again, very good question. Our approach is to develop a POC. For this particular POC I mentioned, support and funded by Microsoft, is a 2 days workshop, and you can choose what you want to resolve or problems to solve using AI. So maybe forecasting, or maybe promotion is a pain point. We can build a POC in just 2 days with you together. It's a hands-on workshop. And then the next phase, we are going to build a MVP. We call it minimal viable products. So using the POC and our accelerator solution, so it could take a few weeks to months, depends on how complicated you are at, what kind of data, what kind of software you want to integrate, whether the particular API is available. So that's the next step. And then the final step is building the solution with customization with you. And that in itself, again, will take a couple of weeks to months.
I think May had a question. May, do you want to feel free to speak, or you can just type it into the chat if you like, if you've got a particular question that you would like Kelvin to answer.
Just while that's happening, Cass and Kelvin. So Kelvin, thanks so much for laying that information out for us. I suppose that sort of resonates fairly significantly with me, as I said, being around emceeing at least a dozen conferences over this year. As we've seen the economic conditions, and especially the dynamics that have occurred in the supply chain from source from the BCOs, from the beneficial cargo owners, all the way through to end user or consumer, being that B2B or B2C, and every part of that journey from first mile to middle mile to last mile. We've seen really significant dynamics evolve during this year, from very high consumer demand, very high levels of stock required on hand, all the way through that supply chain that you outlined, to a point now where a lot of organizations have done their planning earlier this year and got a lot of stock either on the water or in the air, and in their warehouses and even into their retail centres, and now finding this fairly significant drop off in many places of consumer behaviour. So I can certainly see how this sort of tool can bring together getting that data, understanding, measuring, figuring out where the stock is, what the costs are, and then how to taper and manicure the stock requirement moving ahead from the planning perspective to what is going to be required ahead, which again is a little bit a little bit dynamic at the moment because we're coming into a traditional high spend, high consumer demand period, which in some areas has already taken place. So for the western parts of the world, Christmas spend, a lot of countries have reported 20 to 30% already of Christmas shopping being done well ahead of time. So people don't want to get involved in crowded environments for December spending. But I can see how this sort of tool can, for supply chain operators, can simplify and give clarity and visibility on where the stock is and how they can best leverage the economic benefits of this type of product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is supply chain pain points. I would say it's ever changing, but in the nutshell, it is always the same, going back to having the latest forecast, accurate forecast, latest data, so that everyone is on the same page. Having that integrated from source, so from vendors, suppliers to customers to your 3PLs, having that visibility, I think that's crucial for nowadays, just to not only to serve your customers, but also keeping the cost down, optimizing your profit margins that way. So I guess the least we can do is provide a cost-effective solution so that we can empower your supply chain people, your planners, to do that work.
Sure. Yeah, and I think as a reinforcement to the fact that everybody does need accurate data and to be able to manage it and utilize it and get outcomes, is the fact that as a global recruitment organisation, and Cass knows this very much as well as I do on our recruitment side, is that the demand for analysts, data analysts, and for people in technology, especially AI, across the whole ecosystem of supply chain has gone through the roof over especially the last 9 to 12 months. So, organisations in various stages of understanding, many organisations are very mature, of course, a lot of the retailers, a lot of the apparel organisations in particular, that are very sensitive to changing consumer demands. And I saw a lot of this in Europe when I was there last month with some of our clients there. Organisations are really going heavy on investment in data, understanding data, getting people that are qualified in that space. So very, very much a prevalent factor. And I think, Cass, you've seen a lot of that in APAC, where you are as well, the type of roles coming into organisations that are more advanced than the traditional roles in supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with all of the dynamics from COVID and then even through with the climate changes and just how quickly things are shifting, and therefore the impacts on demand and supply and the products that we can get to wherever, for organisations to be able to see what they need to do to plan the timeframes and be able to put in all of these different parameters, so that then they can sort of redeploy or just sort of see where actually everything is across their supply chain, has become critical, because you can't manufacture anything quick enough these days because there's issues in component supply or just raw material supply. So being able to divert all your various different products, or understanding that, okay, like if the rain gets to a certain depth in this particular area, it's going to have this kind of flow-on effect. It's being able to handle all of these anomalies, which just seem to be incessant right now, has become a critical part of organisations being able to get the conversion of their capital throughout all of this and seize market opportunities, but also understand what they need to do to meet their standard consumption demands, or being able to relay that critical time sensitive information upstream to their other suppliers, so that everybody can deliver what needs to be delivered to the markets that need it at that point in time. And that becomes a real critical issue, and addressing that the consumption needs, but also enabling your business to be profitable during this period, and not sort of be caught out, or at least sort of understanding what the impacts are actually going to be on you from a manufacturing perspective through to your last mile distribution through to the finance perspective, which, you know, everybody's got to get on the same page now, particularly going into the economic cycle that we're all going into. It's absolutely critical that people have the one tool, but it's getting that tool implemented quickly and cost efficiently that, from, you know, conversations with our customers, they're all struggling with. So, you know, being able to highlight something that is so user friendly, and as you said, you know, everybody's already using Power BI, so this is just taking it one step further to have all of these different you know, examples and different parameters put in place so that they've got scenarios that they can utilize and see what those impacts are is just critical.
So one of the things we haven't actually talked about, and thanks for that, Cass, one of the things we haven't really talked about today, and I think it's would lend itself to another whole session, would be the whole issue of where this sort of technology plays into sustainability. We've not talked about reverse logistics today, and the impact that data, understanding of data and utilization of data can have on sustainability and recycling, and limiting the wastage, which we've seen a lot about in recent times. Of course, with the massive, with data now helping us understand the massive wastage, especially in the apparel industry, and the issues around that from a environmental perspective and everything else. So maybe that's another session, Kelvin, at some point. But Kelvin, just as a wrap up, the Cloud Collective we mentioned earlier on has 4 organisations in it, as I understand it. Could you just give us a quick wrap on those organisations that Antares works with?
Sure. Just give me a second. Okay. Right. So for Cloud Collective, we have Antares, ICOM, Quorum, and Walker Scott. And all of us are all Microsoft Go partners. So for Antares, we focus on data and AI. We have a team working on modern workplace as well, meaning like Microsoft Teams, SharePoint. For ICOM, we have a team working on communications, and Quorum on securities, and Walker Scott on Dynamics 365.
Okay, jolly good. Okay, well, look, you know, again, thanks so much for rolling through this today for us and demonstrating where the value and identifying the pain points, which I'm sure just about any supply chain practitioner will understand and relate to, and you know, identifying the solution that you folks have got. Very interesting, very relevant. And I'm sure that'll engender some genuine inquiries as to how to follow up from there, and how that might be, how the solution may be applicable to various environments. So we encourage anybody who's got any inquiries. You've seen the hashtags there before, and how to get hold of Kelvin, Cassandra, or myself. Cass, any final points from you?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks very much, Kelvin, for highlighting and sharing. You know, certainly it's a very common theme with my discussions with organisations and you know, trying to build their teams to handle these sorts of issues. So being able to have a platform that can be very easily integrated and have so many different parameters and scenarios is absolutely critical, because you know, we all know there's a massive talent shortage within supply chain, and then getting the practitioners who can utilize all of this is you know, is very few and far between, and you know, certainly it's coming at a premium price at the moment because everybody's after them. So for organizations to be able to have a tool that can then leverage and support their teams further is critical in the market. So I really appreciate you being able to just sort of highlight and showcase the various different scenarios we can have. Obviously, there's quite a few different case studies. Everyone will be able to get the recording and can certainly reach out through to me, Kim, yourself, and you know, and follow up and take that further if they want to have any further information.
Thanks, Cass.
So thank you.
Thanks, Kelvin, and thanks to Antares for the presentation today. And we look forward to having another session soon, I hope, because I think there's a lot more to talk about across this ecosystem of technology. So without further ado, thank you everybody for joining us, for those who have been online with us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.